Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Yiboneh Beit Midrash. Welcome home to Torah. I want to mention we're going to dedicate tonight's learning to the Refuah Shalema of Chaim Tzvi ben Rivka, Avi Yachad ben Sarah, Bela bat Blima, and Alon Yehuda Yosef ben Chana Miriam. We should all have them in mind when we're learning to elevate their souls and their bodies. They should have a complete recovery in their nefesh and in their guf. All their 248 different limbs and the 365 different bones and organs. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, so welcome aboard. We are dealing with Parshat Noach. If anybody out there is an alcoholic, I have to tell you, you tuned in to the right show. Okay, so we're going to deal with chapter 9 in Genesis, verse 20. And the first thing that Noach did when he departed from the ark was he planted a vineyard. Is that what I heard you say? Okay, so what does the verse say? Vayachel Noach. Now the word vayachel could mean he began. In fact, here, the translation I gave you, he was the first to plant a vineyard. That's a little bit, I think there's a little bit too much play with the words. Let's go through it again. It says, Vayachel Noach, Ish Ha'adamah. Ish Ha'adamah means he's a man of the ground, a man of the earth. Here they say he's a tiller of the soil. But that's not real what the word means. It really means he's a man of the ground, and it's going to be significant. And what did he do? Vayita kerem. He planted a vineyard. So Vayachel, Rashi tells us right away, Vayachel means what? It means profane. Like you have chulin. Chulin is meat that you do not eat in the Beit HaMikdash. Kadoshim is what we eat in the Beit HaMikdash. So kadosh is holy. Chol is either it's the opposite of holy. It doesn't have to always mean profane. But in this case, it means profane. Like we have on Chol HaMoed, that's the intermediate days. Chol HaMoed, it's not profane days. They're just normal. Yom Chol, weekdays. It's just normal. It's the opposite of kadosh. It doesn't always have to mean profane. But here, he debased himself by planting this vineyard. And the next verse says he got drunk. Tells you a lot already. So we use the Kli Yakar to examine the Parsha. And the first thing he says is the word V'yachel is Lashon Chulin, profane. Shahachulin hefech HaKedusha. That this kind of chulin is not just mundane, but it's the opposite of holiness. B'kol makom, shata motze geder erva. Any time or any place that you find a fence, some type of a geder is a fence, towards or against sexual immorality or immodesty, sham timsa kedusha. That's why the Jewish people are considered very holy. What do? We separate from our wives during a menstrual cycle. Okay, there is women dress modestly. Obviously, men are also supposed to dress modestly. Okay, but we don't go around the streets in these bikinis and whatnot. It's called a busha, a cherpa. It's there's this thing called a bas melech. A Jewish woman is the daughter of the king. She's a princess. And how is the princess's dress? Okay, don't answer. Today might be a little bit different, but this is how we think of our people. Aval hayayin margil le'irva, right? So this means that wine could make either not just a custom, but could cause you one to slip into regularity of immodest behavior. Okay? And how do we know? It says in Hosea, I think they pronounce it Hosea, 4:11. What does it say? It says, Nut v'yayin v'tirosh. That means harlotry and wine and new wine, yikach leiv, take away or remove the heart. And we're very empathetic, sensitive people, and when one gets drunk or they're involved in harlotry, but the fact is they're both in the same verse. These words are next to each other. That's what he means by hargel. There's an association on a regular basis between, let's say, harlotry and perhaps today drugs or abuse of alcohol. Now, a sota is a suspected wife, a wife who had a suspicion placed on her by her husband, that perhaps she was alone, secluded with another man that wasn't right, and the husband had warned her. So based on that suspicion, we are not like the Arabs. I just want to say that clearly, okay? The women have rights to defend themselves, and chas v'shalom, God forbid that a man should ever take the law in his own hands, be a vigilante. The woman has utmost respect, and therefore is taken to a court, taken to the Beit HaMikdash, and a certain procedure is taken place. As opposed to, unfortunately, I don't think it's just the Arab world, it's probably throughout Africa. There's other cultures have this idea of what they call honor killings. There's not even a kangaroo court. There's no court. They just take it upon themselves for whatever reason. It's just beyond us, okay? We can't even imagine why they would do such a thing. But I'm sure they have their reasons, but for us, it's beyond the pale. So if one saw the process, just the ritual on the Temple Mount, with the woman having her hair undone, because a woman's supposed to cover her hair, a married woman covers her hair, and she's drinking this water that will expose the truth. It's very prophetic. Someone who witnesses this, the Gemara tells us, is likely to make a nazir of himself, meaning he'll take on the obligation or prohibition against from eating grapes or grape derivatives such as wine and even grape juice. So I can actually just go through the Gemara very shortly to explain it. The Gemara questions the placement of this tractate, Gemara Sota. Just think about it. In even not just our page numbers. I explained this week. Our page numbers are letters, and if the pages spell a negative word, the letters are switched. You'll never find in a Jewish book Reish Ayin, page 270, written Reish Ayin, because that spells evil. So it'll be switched. It'll be Ayin Reish, which means to awaken. You can go on and on, right? Shin Daled, right? You see Daled Shin. Any word that has a negative connotation, the letters are switched. So the fact that all of the Gemaras are in a certain order, most of the opening pages, if the Gemara itself doesn't ask, Tosfos might ask, why is this book following that book? What's the connection? So that's the question the Gemara actually asks. So it says, now the Tana rose from Nazir, which is the tractate preceding Sota. So imagine that. You have Nazir right before Sota. The truth is, we just got done saying that when one witnessed the Sota, they might become a Nazir. So really the question begs itself, shouldn't it be the opposite? Shouldn't Sota come first and then Nazir? So you already have tractates that came before, and there are reasons why, and that's what the Gemara here starts to explain.
But also, if you look in the Bible, in Bamidbar, you have the story of the Sota followed immediately by the laws of the Nazir.
Correct. So the question is, why is Nazir before the Sota in the tractates of the Gemara? That's exactly the question. So the Gemara answers. This was done in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi is the one who organized the Mishnayot, and therefore the Gemaras are based on that. So this is already talking about the actual, right, as Larry mentioned, in the Parsha itself. So, and that's going to tell you that anyone sees a Sota in her disgrace. I mean, it's such a tragedy. It's such a horrible thing that this husband even suspected his wife, and that it went all the way to court, right? But it ended up in court, and she was disgraced. I want you to also know that her stomach will blow up if she's innocent or if she's guilty. How's that so? How's that so? If she's guilty, her stomach will blow up. If she's innocent, she'll get pregnant. Very nice comment. Okay. So what happens? She undergoes the rite of this, we call it sota waters, the bitter waters, that this person, whoever sees it, would renounce wine, as wine is one of the causes of sexual transgression. This is the connection already. Okay, so now we'll go on. And the Gemara, the Kliyakar brings, where are we? He brings this idea, Al Kain Hiskir Boloshin V'Yachel. This is exactly why we're talking about Noah debased himself. The language of V'Yachel is debasing. Sha'ayidei Netiyazu, that through his actual planting, he could have planted anything. He could have planted anything. But this is what he planted. He planted a vineyard. So, Nase Chulin, he made himself debased, v'yidgal betoch ahalo. And if you notice the next few verses, we're going to talk about the fact that he was naked in this tent of his, and there's a big question whether he was sodomized or castrated. Okay, by again, who did it? Whether it was Canaan or whether it was Cham. V'chein yidbar lekam b'ezrat Hashem pasuk. We have this idea of V'Yachel showing you that it was really a debasing situation. If you look in Numbers 25:1, this is when the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. V'Yachel ha'am was note. Yes, V'Yachel also means to start, to begin, but it's like a double, what's called, there's a word for it, double say it, how do you pronounce it? Entendre. Yeah. So the word has several meanings, as we'll see throughout our lessons. Okay, so that is the first paragraph. Now, he also mentions the word Ish Ha'adamah. As we saw, my book translates it as a tiller of soil, or a man of the field, right? Anything to agriculture. But it means he's a man of the earth. What is a man? When I tell you someone's a man of the earth, what does it tell you? Are we spiritual beings or are we earthly beings? We're both. There we go. Chai is always on the ball.
When you're mentioning earth, like men of earth, he's less spiritual, no?
Listen, it says he's an Ish Tzaddik. He's definitely a righteous person when we first were introduced. Nevertheless, we're talking about these words, Ish Adama, appear when he's planting this vineyard. So that's a base idea. It's a very earthly, or let's say lower. So Chaim's right. We are made up of a spirit and a body. And we talked about this in the past. The only thing that's going to really combine, the only way these two things can be combined in a healthy way is through the Torah. Right? You have other religions, they're just all spiritual and they have no sense of reality. And you have other people that are just very physical and no sense of spirituality. It's through the Torah is God's key. It's the key. It's the key to life. It's the instructions for living. Right? It's the only way that man can really metakem, to fix himself and the world around him, is using God's fingerprint and mind, so to speak. Okay? His instruction manual. So the Kliyakar says he's called an Ish Adama. Why? Because he was acting from the material component, from the ground in which he came. Just an idea, Adam is from the Adama. Adam himself, we know he is he's from the soil, but God breathed into him a soul. Okay? Aval haseichel sheba Adam, when it comes to, I think I've mentioned the word seichel several times. In Maharalian terms, it means spirit. In Rambam or Maimonides, it means intellect. So how do we translate it? We like to do with both. It's called a spiritual intellect. Right? That's how I like to translate it. Since man has this spiritual aspect, Chelek Elokai Mima'al. It's a portion of Hashem himself, Eino maskim benetiazu. The seichel is not really interested in the winery or in the planting of the vineyard. Why? Because the wine ruins the ability for the man to be a thinking person, or let's say even a spiritual person, right? It depends. We'll use both. It will confuse his intellectual spirit. It will take him down the wrong path. And we're going to talk about this. Davar acher, karu, ish hadama, an alternative explanation. Why is Noah called an ish hadama? Shehalach b'darchei adam harishon. He proceeded, he walked, he followed the way of the first man. What is it about the first man? He sinned with Geffen. Now this is only according to Rabbi Meir. I quoted the Gemara here. There's a few other opinions about what the tree, the fruit of the knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I believe it is number 5. The tree from which Adam, the first man, ate, Rabbi Meir says it was a vine. Okay? So we have Rabbi Nechemi who holds it was a fig tree, and we have Rabbi Yehuda says it was wheat. I believe there's another opinion that it is or was a citron, an esrog. Okay? So what was Noach doing? He was going in the wrong direction because he did exactly the same thing that Adam did. But how can we dan l'chaschut? Maybe there's a reason why. Any guesses? He was trying to metaken Adam's sin. This is what all of history is about, right? You have we have the flood here, but later we're going to have the Tower of Babylon. We're going to even the people of Sodom. Like, eventually, you have always, when there's a downfall, at the end of the story, someone comes out victorious. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Jewish people, right? Throughout history. So basically, and since we do have a lot of Bnei Noach who watch our video, and Gentiles in general, so we should let me clarify an idea. That the soul of Adam, we call him the first human, this is the soul of the Jewish people, which eventually was divided into 600,000 pieces. So out of Egypt came 600,000 Jews. They all had their root soul in the original Adam. As time went on, every human being had an opportunity to also be metaken, but we see that only through till Noach, and then from Noach to Abraham, and then Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the way down to Yaakov, Yisrael, and we were talking about Levi, Amram, Moshe, but you're talking about the 12 tribes that came out of Yaakov, and everyone else. That this carries on the original soul of Adam, whereas the non-Jew is basically the other portions of humanity, meaning Seth. Seth, right? Seth was let's say Seth is part of the original line, but you have offshoots. But the 10 people, that was carrying on the soul of Adam. Every human being in history had an opportunity to metaken. So as the flood went, whoever was not metaken was basically destroyed. Okay, so we believe in reincarnation. The souls come back. At Mount Sinai, every soul of all humanity was there. It just happened to be one nation said yes. The rest of the nations, as nations, said no, we're not interested in your Torah. But there were individual souls of the Gentile nations that said yes at Mount Sinai. I'm going to call that a Jewish soul, stuck in a non-Jewish body. And that body that soul will be reincarnated, and throughout history, they have joined in with the Jewish people. Capiche?
Okay.
Interesting? Okay. So when it says here that he followed the way of Adam Arishon, he most likely was trying to metaken, but at the same time, he didn't succeed and he fell. It was only rectified by the revelation of Mount Sinai. Okay, so let's go on to the next paragraph. Davar acher. Now this is very interesting. Did I mention if there's any alcoholics? You tuned into the right show. Davar acher. The yayin korem lo sheyetze rucho yashuv la'admaso kodem zmano. Wine causes one's spirit to depart back to his earth before its time, early. Okay? Many people have died of alcoholism, whether directly or indirectly. Kamoshin Amar. Listen to this verse in Mishlei. In Mishlei it says, 14:12. There is a path, yesh derech. There's a path that is what? Yashar. Lifnei ish. So this person thinks that he's walking a straight path. There's a path before a man, and he in his mind thinks that it's straight. Va'acharito darche maves. But its end is really death. What are we talking about here? I want to show you something. The word acharito, its end, his end or its end is the same word. If you take, there's different types of counting words or counting letters in Gematriot. There's a thing called Reshi Tevos, acronyms, and then there's a thing called Sofe Tevos, the last letter of words. I don't know what it's called. If anybody knows what it's called, put it in the comments. We'd like to hear what it's called in English. They're called Sofe Tevos. So if you take the word Yesh Derech Yeshar, look at the Shin from Yesh, the Chaf from Derech, and Yashar, the Resh. It spells the word Sechar. Shechar. What's Shechar? Strong drink, strong wine. So what is it? It's the strong wine causes the person, or maybe the person already has some psychological issue, and everything he does, he thinks he's doing right. But I'm sure the alcohol adds to that, okay? So in his end is derech maves. Let's look at the words. Kikol shikur yitalek lemesharim. Every drunkard believes he's going in the right path. V'kol ha'arayos domos lo limishor. And anyone who's involved in licentious behavior also seems that it's proper for him in his proper behavior. This is how Chazal in Yuma, that's Gemara Yuma 75a. I did bring it down in the English sheets. If you want to see, here it's number 7. So, apropos the dispute between Rav Ami and Rav Asi, the Gemara continues with another dispute they had regarding the correct interpretation of a verse. This is in Proverbs 23:21. Do not look upon the wine when it is red, when it gives its color in the cup, when it glides down smoothly. B'meisharim, like straight. I don't know if you ever take a shot. It goes right straight down. Okay, Rav Ami and Rav Asi disagree. One said, whoever cast his eye on his cup, meaning he's habitually drunk, so all those prohibitions of those with whom relations are forbidden seem to him like a level playing field, like mishur, like a plane. Everything's easy and equal. He's unaware of the pitfalls of sin and continues walking along a twisted and dangerous path. And the other one said, whoever casts his eye on his cup, the whole world seems to him like a level playing field. So it's not just drinking. Not only is such a person unconcerned by forbidden sexual relations, but any sin. I'm going to tell you another story, another idea, and that is when someone is physically sick. Have you ever been physically sick and your mom brings you toast and you know what? You can't even look at the food you normally eat. You just either disgusted by it or your taste buds are just way off. So we say what is bitter is sweet and what is sweet is bitter. And that's how it works when you're physically sick. Guess what? When you're spiritually sick, it's the same thing. What is sweet is bitter, or what is forbidden is permissible, what is permissible is forbidden. So this is a spiritual illness. Alcoholism or drug addiction, most addictions, let's say, if not all, are rooted in some spiritual issue that has to be dealt with. You heard it from me, in my opinion. Okay. So he says, Lav dafka arayos. It's not only God bless you, forbidden relations. El kol chatas v'kol avon hakol yashar beinav. It's no longer only forbidden relations, but everything. When you're drunk, everything seems to be permissible. He doesn't know this is going to cost him his life. It will consume him. Wine will finish him off from his soul to his body. It's going to finish him off. That's why it says achiroto, right? It says at the end will be his death, right? Is the way of death. That's what the verse said in Proverbs 14:12. The end. That's what he means. Look at the words, the Reshi, the Sofi Tevos. It's number 8. Yesh derech yashar. You have the word shechar. Okay, that means strong drink. And we're talking about wine the whole time. That's what the word used. So, ki hashechar hamashakehu derech malves. The drink will intoxicate him in the way it's basically killing him. And this is hinted by the name of Noach. Well, let's not go to the name yet. It's hinted by what Noach did. Noach planted the vineyard and says he drank the wine. So what about the word wine? It's Yud, Yud, Nun. There's another way of doing gematria, and that's take the whole letter. Every letter is actually a word. Aleph is Aleph Lamed Pei, which has a gematria of 111, or Bet is Bet Yud Tuf, so it's 412. Just an example. But if you take the letter as it's Malay, it's fully written. So take the word Yain, for example. It's Yud, Yud, Nun. Yud, Vav, Daled, Nun, Vav, Nun. Take the Sofi Tevos, again, Acharito, its end. Take what's the end of wine? Is 50 plus 8, it's 58. And that's exactly Noach's name. Nun Chet. Nun Chet is 58. Noah's name is the exact gematria of the Sofi Tevos of the word Yain, and this hints that he was Rishon Shnit Asek Menetiazu, that he was the first guy to really be involved in winemaking, and that was his downfall. So we want to praise the Bnei Noach, right? And we're all, humanity is from Noach, but trust me, this is a pitfall, okay? You have to learn, as the Rambam says, if you have a problem, you have to go to the other extreme. This is in any character trait, right? Except anger. Anger, the middle's not the best place. The middle, when it comes to anger, it's better never to be angry. But let's say all other character traits, if you feel you're at extreme at one side, go all the way to the other extreme and stay there as long as you possibly can and make your way to the middle. That's the goal. Okay, the golden mean. That's what the golden path. So if we turn our Hebrew pages, Chazal tell us that you look at the verse 921. V'yitgal betoch ahala. So he drank of the wine and became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. This is going to be a hint to all of history, especially Jewish history. That what Shigarm Levanav Galut Ba'avon, that this caused his children, that's us, to be exiled on account of the sin of what? Drinking. Look at Amos. Amos was a prophet from the southern, he was from Yehuda, but he went to the 10 tribes of the north and he gave them tochacha. What is the job of a prophet? To give them rebuke. A job of a prophet is not about foretelling the future. It's not at all his job description. His job, the goal is to rebuke the people. And how are you going to trust him? Because he could tell you things are going to happen in the future. So if he tells you, let me ask you guys, if a prophet tells you something's going to happen and it doesn't happen, is he a false prophet? Everyone I ask always says yes, but you guys already know better. Exactly. So if he tells you a positive outcome and it doesn't happen, yes, he's a false prophet and he's put to death. But if he tells you a negative, what do you call it? Prophet of doom. Something very bad is going to happen and it doesn't happen, he's not a false prophet. Because it was always associated with rebuke. You better change or else, right? Nineveh. You guys are going to be like fire and brimstone, destroyed. And then they weren't destroyed because God heard their prayer. God saw their actions. Okay? So you never know how much tilted, what could have been one person, could have been one great deed by one person that changed everything. You say, I don't see I don't see the negative prophecy come true, and I don't really see great amount of change in their behavior. First of all, who are you? A prophet that foretells a negative prophecy and it doesn't happen, it means diddly squat, nothing. But if he came and told you that the Nationals are going to win the World Series or something like that, and they did it, then he's put to death, right?
It depends if it's from Washington or produced.
Exactly, okay. So what did Amos say? You can read the verses. It's in chapter 6, verse 6, but you can read the whole chapter 6. You see, he's talking about the upcoming, impending doom of Sencherib, that they were drinking from the bowls, basins of wine. Okay, you want to talk about a cup, that's one thing. But these people were drinking large quantities of wine. So this was just a textual support for this idea that this hints to the idea of causing the exile. Now this is a little bit spooky. He already took little plantlings with him on the ark. This is the first thing he did when he got off, was plant them. So as soon as he planted them, the Satan, which is a negative force, let's say the Satan, he mizdaveg, he joined forces with Noach. He kind of, not possessed, okay? But we're talking about joined forces. He combined himself with Noach when Noach planted the Kerem. Let me give you an idea what the Satan is, because our idea of the Satan is very different than other religions. There is no such thing as a fallen angel. God created this angel to prosecute or persecute, to not defend you when you go into Judgment Day, but to accuse you. Okay? And to accuse you, he had to have seen it. And not only has seen it, he's the first guy on the line making all the trials and tribulations happen. But I want you to know what he's thinking. He is actually saying, I'm only here because God sent me. I want you to overcome. You know, like an obstacle course? So as you're running, he's throwing more and more obstacles in your way. And you could give up or you could fall, but he's saying, I am not giving you anything that I know you can't handle. You could do it. But that's his job. He's just doing his job. So the Satan joined up with Noach when he planted the Kerem, the vineyard. And this is actually, I should have mentioned, this is from a Medrash. So the Medrash says that Noach offered 3 offerings at the time, and he shechted, first thing he shechted was a lamb, tleh. The second thing was a lion, an ari. And the third thing was a chazir, a pig. What is all this? This goes back to the idea that this is a hint to the exiles. There's different ways to count the exiles. Some don't count Egypt at all. And then we have 4 exiles. Some count those 4 exiles as 2. Some count them as 8. But physically exiled, we definitely can count 3. And that's counting Egypt is the first. And the god of Egypt was the tleh. We shechted that. So anyway, the tleh represents the Egyptian exile. Noach was bringing an offering for that. And for the Ari, and Nebuchadnezzar, we'll see the verses. This represents Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar, the Ari, the lion, and the Gullus, the exile we're in right now. We call it the Christian exile. We call it Asaph, the Roman exile. That's what we're in right now for the last 2,000 years. And the pig is Asaph. Okay, so here it goes. Yesh b'nistaros remez l'shlosha golios hayuduim. This is a hint. There's a mystical ideas here against or parallel to the 3 that hint to the 3 different major exiles that are well known. For example, Egypt. So they worshipped the sheep. Okay, so I believe that I have here on the sheets. I always think, when I think of proving that the Egyptians worshiped the sheep, I just think in my own mind when Yosef was asked by the brothers, and what are we doing here? What are we going to do? And he says, I want you to tell Pharaoh when he asks you what your occupation is, tell him you're shepherds, because it's an abomination in the eyes of the Egyptians. Now this idea of a shepherd, why should being a shepherd be an abomination? And why should Joseph anyway tell the brothers to tell Pharaoh this? So the reason is because the deity of Egypt they had many, but one of their main was the lamb. And this is exactly why God told us to slaughter the lamb, because that's what a Jew's job is. The Jew's job in this world is to slaughter fake news, to slaughter illusions and falsities. Okay? That's what our job is. This was their God, and we not only we had a barbecue. It wasn't like you could cook it in like your cellar in a pot that had a lid on it. Okay? You had to waft the smoke throughout Egypt and say, "Nanny, nanny, poo poo, we just killed your God." And yes, we have been accused of that. But that's what we are doing. We are here to tell the world that it's all lies. There's only one God, right? The creator of the universe, the Zionist one. That God is a Zionist, that he loves Israel, the people of Israel, the Torah of Israel, and the land of Israel. Right? That's what we're here to tell the world. Okay, where are we going? So that first sacrifice was the tzlah. Even though that's the proof I would have brought, the Kli Yakar brings another proof, which is fantastic. In Exodus chapter 8, verse 21 through 22. Pharaoh wanted Moses and Aaron to come, and he says, "Go ahead, man, go sacrifice to your God here in Egypt." Well, we were told them we were bringing lambs, right? So Moses says, "How can we do that? It would be improper to do that. For we're going to sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to God our Lord. So when we're going to sacrifice the deity of the Egyptians before their eyes, you don't think they're going to kill us and want to stone us?" This is our story. I want the whole world to know. This is what the Jews stand for, the truth, and the world's not ready to hear it, and we suffer. Yes, we are the suffering servant of Isaiah 53. Okay? This is the proof positive right here. Every time we stand up and say this is the truth, and the world's not ready to hear it, we get it. Okay, but that's what we are. We are Moser Nefesh for the truth. Okay, so then we mentioned about the Chazir, the Ari. The Ari is, Jeremiah prophesied at the end of the temple, the first temple period. So Amos, we talked about, was like 100 and some years before, when the 10 northern tribes were exiled. Now Jeremiah is witnessing about the destruction from Nebuchadnezzar, and it says a lion has come up from its thicket. If you read the whole chapter, you realize we're talking about the onslaught is coming, and it's coming from Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, and he is called a lion. Okay, and now we're going to go to Psalms 80:14, chapter 80:14. It refers over there to the chazir, to a boar. A boar is some type of a pig. Okay, so this deserves a lot more attention than we're going to give it. We're going to end this paragraph by mentioning that the word anavim is grapes, and that's where wine comes from. In case you didn't know, you think you just go to the store and buy a bottle? People stood on those grapes. No, I'm kidding. Today they do have machinery that takes care of all that. But going back to the idea that anavim, which is grapes, is a shutaf, is a partner with something called the Samech Mem. Samech Mem Aleph Lamed is a name for the archangel of Esav. It's also what we call the Satan. Okay, so yeah, we're getting on Esav in the Christian's case a lot here. But to a certain extent, they deserve it. Okay? Now, we don't say the name, but I'll say it for learning purposes so we know what we're talking about. It's called Sam El. In fact, we talked about this before, that his job, the Satan, is to blind you. The word suma is to be blind. He's to blind you from spirituality, which is El, God. So that's his goal. Meaning that's his goal because God told him to do it, right? He wants to test you, to put you in a position where you make a choice. But the letters of Samech Mem Aleph Lamed and the letters of grapes, Al Ayin Nun Bet Mem, they're all next to each other, meaning the letter that comes immediately after a samach is an ayin. Immediately after a mem is a lamed. Nun. Immediately after an aleph is a bet, and immediately after a lamed is a mem. So you have, right, I made it here just so you can see. You have the name Sam El, and you have Anavim. The letters are called alpha, beta, shniot, otiot. Now let me just read the words he says here. Anavim shutafu shel Sam'el va'otiyot shniot ba'alpha besa remez nachon shenizdaveg lo satan. This shows you that the satan, which is the samech mem, joins up with the anavim. It joins up with the grapes. It joins up with the wine, and it's a mikshal. A mikshal is a stumbling block. It's as simple as that. Al yedei natias anavim, and this all happened when Noach, the first thing he does when he gets off the ark, is plant a vineyard. Just to talk about the word Noach for a second, because I know you guys are interested, that Noach means rest, right? Noach invented a lot of, this is the Iron Age, we're talking about agricultural tools. This was a gift. God brings down into our minds ideas, that's why we're creative, not because of us, but because we make the effort, and then God makes these brilliant ideas happen. So at the right time, Noach invented a lot of agricultural tools that allowed man to rest. Otherwise they were wanderers, they're called nomads, hunters, but now they could rest, right? That's one idea. So that's like a real blessing for mankind. Another idea is that it means also to make pleasant. That a ben Noach, someone who keeps the 7 Noachide laws, a non-Jew, but he doesn't have to be Jewish, just keeping the 7 Noachide laws, maybe a few extra laws that he wants, voluntarily, it's pleasing to Hashem. Noach. I know that I have some friends who converted to Judaism and they make fun and they say, yeah, just rest. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you guys are just resting. We're like taking on all these mitzvahs. But that's what you call flaming Baal Tshuva, you know. Maybe they're right, I don't know. But that's their opinion. So now you heard it from me, and we're going to continue onwards. Okay, we're going to continue with verse 23, where it says, V'yikach shem v'yafes es ha-simla. Okay, so we go to verse 23. Well, first of all, let's read some of these verses. In 21, he drank of the wine and became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. And here it happens. Shem and Yafes take. But if in Hebrew, if I told you 2 people took, how would I say 2 people took? Would I say v'yikach? No. Very good. So let's read the Hebrew. It says v'yikach Shem v'yafes es ha-simla v'yasimu, they placed al Shechem shneim, right? So it was placed both of them v'yelchu acho ranit. So they walked backwards. V'yikasu es ervas avihem. They covered on the nakedness of their father. But look, it says v'yikach. Only one of them took. What does that mean? They both took, but it's telling us it was one of theirs idea. One of them took the initiative. Okay, it's singular. It's not plural. Of course, they both took it. You can see from the verse they both took it. But so why did one? Whatever this one did was the right thing. And he gets a lot of credit for it, okay? Don't think for a second that it's all about faith and faith alone. We say deeds matter, okay? Everything you do makes a difference. And what he did, what Shem did, this is why we were at tzitzis today. He took this garment, this holy garment. It wasn't holy at all. It was mundane, but he used it for such a positive thing, to cover his father's nakedness. So we're going to see a medrash that says, because of this, we get the mitzvah tzitzis. Shame, we're Semites. So look what Rashi says, Perish Rashi, Misham zoch letalish shel tzitzis. I want you to see, you have to be very careful. We read the Hebrew, it says it's the talis shel tzitzis. The talis is the garment. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because right away, he brings down a question. There's a re'aim that mentions in Chazal in Sota, Yud Zayin, that's Talmud Bavli 17a, that says by Abraham, when Abraham had the war to save Lot, there were four kings against the 5 kings, and the 4 kings wanted to reward him. What did he say? I'm not going to take one string or a shoelace from you. Right? He said it nicer than that, right? How did he say it? Let's see.
Saying on a shoestring budget.
A shoestring budget? Maybe. So look in number 16. Rava further taught, as a reward for what our patriarch Abram said to the king of Sodom, that I will not take a thread or a shoe strap, nor anything that is yours. Distancing himself from anything not rightfully his children merited 2 mitzvahs. We're only going to talk about the first one, but it's good to know both. The thread of sky blue wool on the tzitzis, and the strap that we wear on the phylacteries on the tefillin. Okay, im mechut vi'ad tzroch na'al. I'm not going to take anything. So the question is, if you have 2 midrashim or 2 statements in the Gemara, one says it's because of shame that we get the talis. Now you notice the difference already. One, Abraham, what he did, he merited the blue thread. I want you to feel the difference already. When you read it, let's say superficially, you would have a question. Oh, I heard that it's because of what Abraham did by not taking the loot, the booty, that he merited the tzitzis. On the other hand, it's what Shem did by covering Noach that we merited the tzitzis. But I'm already giving you a feel for the language. When you look in the language, one specifically says the talis of the tzitzis, and the other one says the thread of the tzitzis. So with that in mind, let's read the words. So based on Abraham's deeds, Zacha Lechut Shat Cheles, so near Shalo Kashamide, according to the Kli Kar right away, says, you don't really have a big question. I don't know why the Re'im brought it up as a question. It shouldn't be a question. Why? Ki b'schut kisoy simla zu ze zachu l'simla. It's in the merit of shame, bringing that garment, that we merited the garment. B'schut schut ze zachu l'chut. And what Avraham did, he merited the string. By talking about the string, we merited the string. Ki eina adam yachal l'kayim mitzvah tzitzis ad sheyitein lo kadosh baruch hu techila simla. Do you know, how can you, I want to do tzitzis. I know there's a bunch of messianic crazies out there, they just take tzitzis and attach them to their belt, and they think that they're it has to be attached to a garment. So where did, only, if someone's living on the streets, they have no garments. So it's a gift. First you have to have the garment. And out of gratitude, right? That's the gift that God gave. Through shame, we get the garment, and only then can you put the tzitzis on, right? You have to have the garment first. Let's say I want to do mezuzah. Well, I need a house, right? So God gives me a house. I can do. Isn't that great? I want to do. So I have to have the ingredients. I have to have the wherewithal to be able to do the mitzvah. So it's a blessing. So one of the blessings is the garment. And after the garment, then you can do the tzitzis. And it's really not anything less, because without the garment, you can't do the mitzvah, right? So that's how he puts it. I'll just read it. Ki ein ha'adam yachal l'kayim mitzvah tzitzis. A person cannot do the mitzvah tzitzis until Hashem first grants him the garment. As it's brought down in the Medrash, at the end of Sefer Job. Now this was hard for me to really understand. It says, who came mi hikdimoni eshalem. Who came, I think means who came first. Something has to come first for what? Then Hashem says, I will pay. Something comes first, maybe to greet me, but that's what the verse says. It's referring to something coming first, and then there's a reward that's going to come. So the first is, I think that's part of the reward, but then there's even a greater reward coming second. And that's how he ends. Mi asa tzitzis ad shelo nisan lo talis. Who can do tzitzis without talis? Okay, so let's go on to the next verse, the next paragraph. Al tzad remez nir lefarish. From an aspect of a hint, it seems like you can explain. Lefish yedua shemitzvah tzitzis matzilin es ha'adam min ha'aznus. This is going to be fascinating. On one hand, we're talking about the mitzvah of tzitzis can prevent you, can keep you from immodest behavior. I mean, I know plenty of religious Jews, they tell me, I can't go to this place, I can't go to that place, because I look like a religious Jew, right? So just looking like a religious Jew already saves them, right? Because they're wearing tzitzis. Okay, you can tuck the tzitzis in, but you can't, but we're going to hear a story that will just, have you heard this story before about the guy that paid 400 zuz and traveled far and wide for a prostitute? Okay, we're going to hear it here. So first of all, it's well known that the mitzvah of tzitzis can save a person from immodest behavior as brought in Gemara Menachos. So let's go to that Gemara. Guys, you have to hear this story. Michelle, I saw you just leave, but you got to hear this story. It's taught in a brisa. This is number 19. It's taught in a brisa that Rabbi Natan says, there's no mitzvah, however minor, that's written in the Torah, for which there is no reward given in this world and the world to come. In other words, for every mitzvah, you're going to get both the reward in this world and the world to come. And you don't know how much reward is actually given. Let's go and learn from this incident. Listen, in the end, everything worked out. We say they lived happily ever after, right? But we'll start at the beginning. Once upon a time, there was an incident involving a certain man, we don't know his name, who was diligent about the mitzvah of tzitzit. He was very strict. Okay, he had the mahadrim and a mahadrin. Maybe they hung below his knee, I have no idea. But he heard there was a prostitute in one of the cities way far away, in some island somewhere. And she had a very high rate, 400 golden coins. That's how much he wanted. So he went ahead and he arranged through Western Union, or I'm not sure how it worked back in those days, but he sent it ahead and he trusted that it would get there, and then he went. All right, he sent it ahead and he made an appointment and he showed up at the appointed time. The maidservant of the prostitute came and got the door and says, wait here. She went and told her, I don't know what you call her, the madame, and she said, okay, let him come. And she had 7 beds. Now these 7 beds, 6 were of silver, and I guess they had a ladder on each one, like a, what do you call it, like a bunk beds. I don't know exactly how it was. It wasn't the Princess and the Pea. If there was a ladder between each mattress. All the way to the top, there was a golden one. And she went up, and she apparently was prepared for him. And he went up and prepared himself too. But while he was preparing himself, his own tzitzis slapped him in the face. I mean, how could that happen? It happened. He dropped down to the bottom, he sat down, and she came, and what do you think she said? What's wrong with me? What? I didn't put my makeup on right, I have a mole. I mean, look, women are sensitive. We're all sensitive. But apparently this woman was extremely sensitive. She a high rate, and this guy doesn't want her. Maybe it's me, she says. Okay, so she's wondering what's wrong with her, and they basically make oaths to each other. They're telling the truth, but at this point she says she's going to take an oath by, I guess, a god of Rome, that she is not going to let him go until he reveals what defect he saw in her. And he says to her, I swear by my God in the temple that I never saw anybody as beautiful as you. There's nothing wrong with you. But there is, so what exactly happened? He explains about the mitzvah of tzitzis. He's telling her, right? He says, there's one particular mitzvah that my Lord, our God, commanded us regarding these. And he mentions, I'm Lord your God. And I'm the one, it says it twice. So, I'm the Lord your God. I'm the Lord your God who will punish you. I'm the same Lord your God who will give you reward. Right? So you have this double idea. It's the same God. See, that's another thing about other religions. I mean, especially, I can't keep talking about Christianity. I'm sure there's some other guilty religions out there too, right? They're not just them. But they have a real problem where evil comes from. Right? In fact, they're so bent on it that they believe that it's almost a different God of the Old Testament from the New Testament. Of course, they somehow have justified all that. But for the most part, they think that the devil, or the Satan, is a fallen angel at war with God. literally at war, a power separate from God. And that it just doesn't work for us. There is no power other than God, right? All other powers are subordinate, right? And God controls everything. There's nothing outside of the power of God. Anyway, so he's now saying that basically, I have 4 witnesses. Now, I'm not sure if it's the 4 witnesses of the 4 corners, or the 4 witnesses, meaning, just like it says, I am the Lord your God, and then it has twice, it says that, and also says that he's the one who will punish and the one who will reward. So he's got 2 punishments and 2 rewards. Either way you look at it, he did the wrong thing in the beginning, but he was able to rescue himself through the tzitzis. Anyway, before she lets him go, she says, I want all your information. Now, I don't know how he went ahead and gave it to her, but he told her everything. What his name is, not only his name, what city he's from. She wanted to know who his rabbi was. Who's your teacher? What base measures do you learn at? And he told her everything. He didn't fudge it and tell her, like someone asks for your number, you give one number off. He told her everything. And she showed up there. She's knocking on the door of the base measures. Listen, she did tshuva. She's probably dressed very tsanua, and she asked, can I convert? This guy made such an impression on her with the whole story of the tzitzis and whatever he spoke to her about. What an impression that she was the highest paying model, and she's ready to do tshuva. She's knocking on the door. Maybe that's why she wanted the phone number and the address of the yeshiva. But she's there. And he, the Rosh Yeshiva, says, as I think it's a kind of appropriate when a woman comes to convert, it could be a man too, it doesn't matter, someone comes to convert, do you already have a relationship with a Jew? Because it's not the real reason you should be converting, because you fell in love. Okay, we'll deal with it. But in the meantime, is that what's going on? And so, let's see what she says. So, she arose and divided all her property. She gave 1/3 to the government, 1/3 to the poor. She took 1/3 with her. In addition, she even took her beds. And she went to the study hall of Rabbi Chia and said to him, my teacher, instruct your students concerning me and have them make me a convert. In other words, have your students convert me. And Rabbi Chia said to her, my daughter, perhaps you set your sights on one of our students? Is that why you want to convert? She took the note with the guy's handwriting and showed her. She didn't say, this guy. She showed him the handwriting. Okay, I don't know, I guess the rabbi understood who it was. I remember, his name was on there. Not just the handwriting. And you know what he said? Go take possession of your purchase. He converted her. They got married and lived happily ever after. And those beds that she arranged in a prohibited fashion, she used in a positive, in a permissible fashion. Right? They lived happily ever after. Don't get rid of your entire past. Right? If you're a Baal Tshuva or a convert, you have value, you have a life experience. What brought you to this point? Okay, some of it may be treif, and that you can get rid of, but not all of it. Right? If you played the piano, you could play Jewish music with the piano. I'm just giving you an example. I mean, I could probably come up with some other examples, but I went to chef school. So maybe I learned how to cook non-kosher food, but guess what? You can learn how to cook kosher food, right? It's not that difficult once you know how to work a recipe. What works? We had dinner tonight. It was okay, right? And it was satisfying. So the end statement is, this is the reward given in this world and in the world to come. And we have no idea how much the reward will be. So it's amazing how someone can turn their entire life around. And I'm sure she did tshuva out of ahava. And he also did tshuva, by the way. And look at their reward of living happily ever after in a kosher way. Okay, so that's a fantastic story. And why did we tell that story? Because of the idea of tzitzis being able to save you from immodest behavior. But guess what else it can save you from? Because we originally started talking about shame, and shame took the blanket or the simla, and he covered his father, so that was immodest. But what about Abraham? Abraham was able to say, I don't even want a chut, I don't even want a shoestring, I don't want anything from you. And what was he given? Riches and wealth. Abraham was one rich dude, okay? He was the first Jew, as we say, right? And so he had money and he had blessing, a lot of it. Okay, so what can this reward also be? In other words, we said the reward of Shem was one thing, had to do with tzitzis. So too, the reward of Abraham also had something to do with tzitzis, and that is going to be a guard against poverty. Okay, the tzitzis is a guard against poverty. So let's see what he says. V'hanitzol min haznus, nitzol gam min ha'aniyut. So not only does the tzitzis save one from immodesty, but also from poverty. Look at Mishlei 29:3. A man who loves wisdom makes his father happy. But this is the part. But one who keeps company with harlots wastes his wealth. There's another idea, I'm not sure if we'll bring it down, but the idea that if somebody is chasing harlots, they're going to become impoverished. They won't even find bread, meaning they won't even have money for bread. So there is a connection between immodesty and chasing prostitutes to poverty, and there's a connection, what we already mentioned, on the tzitzis on two levels. It's going to save you from immodesty, and it's also going to save you from poverty. So that's really the summary of everything we want to go through at this point. But just let's skip down to the last paragraph then. And the last paragraph talks about the idea that the techeles, that blue thread, is similar to the sea, and then it brings you to think about the color of the sky, and then it's going to bring you to think about the color of the throne of glory, and somehow or another all about Hashem, right? But it starts with one color and it's a gradation to another color. And the truth is, we spoke about this before, that when one looks at the heavens, they see the stars and the moon, all the circuits and orbits going, things are like very happy. And that's thinking about serving Hashem out of love, because simcha and joy represents love. On the other hand, when you see the sea and the ocean is roaring and it's coming and pulling back, it's like serving God out of fear. But either way, they all have their limits and they all have their lines that they don't cross, right? Everything seems to work like clockwork. So too this idea of a chut, a thread. It's a thread. That's all it is. So what we're doing is we're thinking, when we look at these things, we look at the sea or we look at the sky, whether we're serving God out of fear or on a higher level out of love, that we should not deviate from the lines that are drawn. Okay, that's another idea, that the chelis, that the thread, should remind us of. And so for Bezrat Hashem, in the schut of both Shem and Abraham, we were merited to the garment and the tzitzit. And Bezrat Hashem, we should wear our garments in the kingly, right? These are basically priestly garments for the Jewish people. To a certain extent, I'm going to tell you, there's a prohibition against wearing wool and linen together. Okay, it's one of the 613 commandments called shatnez. There are only two garments that one is actually allowed to, and maybe even it's a mitzvah to, for sure. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, has a garment called the belt, and it's made of shatnez, and it's forbidden not to have shatnez in it. When we have the blue thread, we don't have the blue thread yet, we have the best guess at the moment. At this moment we have the best guess, but when we have the blue thread, one is allowed to wear shatnez and probably should wear shatnez in there. So this is it. So on one hand, the Jewish people are the priests, right? That's what the Torah calls us. We are the light to the nations. We are a kingdom of priests, the holy nation. And we have, it's not like we have subjects. You're not a subject. We're actually your servants, okay? So those non-Jews watching this, we're supposed to be your teachers. We're your servants. We're just privileged to be. And we're very happy about it, and we're here to serve you. So we want you to welcome you home to Torah, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom and a great winter. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, a great summer. And we, again, refuah shalema to these people. If you really think about them and meditate on their names, Chaim Tzvi ben Rivka, Avi Yachad Ben Sara, Bela Bat Blima, and of course our beloved teacher, Alon Anava, Alon Yehuda Yosef Ben Chana Miriam. Refuah Shlema to all of them, and see you next week.
Yiboneh Archives,